Woo, there we go. There we go. So, StreamYard is live, which means I should be live out to the YouTube network. And now I just got to wait for YouTube to let you all know that I'm live. And then we can begin with another episode of VypDrive. And they are coming fast and they are coming furious this week. I have 5 podcasts on the dock for this week. So you all are going to be seeing a lot of my face, but you're used to that. Sorry, you're already used to that, so no problem there. But there is the notification from YouTube. So now the entirety of Vype Nation knows that we are live. How are you guys doing? What's up, Alex? What's up, Jay Muga? What's up, Delaja? What's up, Will? What's up, Miles Tech? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Welcome back to another episode. Let us not keep Georgia waiting. Let's get in this introduction and then let's bring Miss Georgia in. If I can talk correctly, that'd be great. So, this is VypDrive episode 101. That is just crazy to say. 101 episodes in, my goodness. But episode 101 brings somebody that I've been watching for a very, very long time. I mean, I watched her change websites, but the one thing that has remained the same is that she and Renee Ritchie are close. I'm talking about iMore contributor Georgia Dow, and she's coming up next on VypDrive, which starts now. What's up, people? This your boy Viper, the man about tech, and welcome back to another episode of VypDrive. This is the podcast about tech, hosted by the man about tech, and today I have a very special guest. I have a Brazilian Jiu-jitsu champion. I know Tudor, right? It's crazy. I also have a longtime contributor to iMore. So let's bring in Miss Georgia Dow to the podcast. Hey, Georgia.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to be on.
I'm excited to have you on. Thank you for making the time. I appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Now, like I said, I have been watching you for a long time. Obviously, today in 2020, the site is called iMore.com. But I've been watching you since it was called, I think, the iPhone blog. Like,
oh, that's a long time ago.
Long time. Tell me about it.
Oh,
ooh, I know, right? I know.
Oh, geez. Those days. I actually wrote a lot in those days. Yeah, no. I think like, yeah, those were like another lifetime ago. Like we did podcasts when no one did podcasts. All I were like glowing eyebrows because like the lighting was all bad, the sound was bad. Hopefully they're not even on the internet anymore. And Renee was like one of those first people that wanted to make sure that like everyone had a voice. And so he brought me on. He knew I love technology and like robotics and like we would talk about all kinds of cool stuff. And he's like, well, listen, why don't you write about it? And we'd like to hear what you have to say. And you have a different opinion than other people. And so that's where it all began. And so, yeah, you were even before it was Tippy, which is like the worst of words to say. Like you'd always have to write it. It was like the iPhone blog, it's Tippy, but it was like so, and my email would have that and I had to explain to people what that means. And, and so everyone was really angry when we went to iMore, but like, come on, iMore is a better word than Tippy.
Yeah, I think iMore is a lot more consumer friendly. Definitely.
Right.
So I was gonna ask you, how did you get started? So it sounds like Renee kind of recruited you, huh?
He did. Renee loved Apple. He's an amazing writer, and he was like, "Hey, listen, why don't you try to do this and see if you enjoy it?" And love doing the podcast. I don't love writing, so I did the writing that I kind of like not had to do. I enjoyed doing it when I did it. I love reviewing products and finding out the weird and cool things that worked with them. Not a fabulous writer. I'm dyslexic. It takes me a really long time. It's a lot of pain and suffering. But love to do all of the podcasts and the talks and the videos that we would do. So there's all kinds of funky videos that are out there with Renee and me doing silly stuff. Oh, yeah. We had so much fun.
Definitely. I've seen some of you guys' videos. They are pretty darn cool, no doubt.
Yeah, a lot of them are me getting hurt, really. I think that there's probably like 5 or 6 times that I was just injured in videos that we did. We slid on cases down mountains, and like there was like we wanted to test out these cases that said that they were pretty indestructible. So we said, okay, like what would be a fun way to test them out? So we used them like sleds. We went through them, and I'm like tumbling, I'm all bloody, and it's like the case survived. So I was like, okay, that's fair. The case was stronger than I was. Did the ice challenge, and we left the ice. We got the bag of ice to do the ice challenge, and we put it in, but then we had stored it for a week before we actually did the video. I think we were going away. I don't know why we did that. And then, so by the time that we did the ice challenge, it was a block of ice. We didn't know that. It looked like ice, but there were these huge chunks. So I'm like bleeding in the video. I don't know. It's not user friendly. I don't know. So we've done all kinds of silly things. Got hit in the head when we did the Back to the Future. I want to say it's the iPhone 5, or iPhone 6. Yeah, when I slam, I'm very clumsy. So when I slam down the door, if you watch the video, I slammed the hood of the Eldorado, the car, DeLorean on my head. Ooh. And just knocked myself out on that one. Yeah, so we've done all kinds of funny, silly, ridiculous things.
Yikes. Well, I'm glad you survived through all of that. You were still
right?
here.
Me too. A few scars, but I'm good.
Woo, yeah. No doubt. No doubt. So obviously you talk a lot about Apple and their products and what they're doing. So I guess I should ask you, how did you get into covering Apple? Where did your love of Apple come from?
I loved it since I had my first iPhone. It was life-changing. It was so different. I had the flip phone. I loved my flip phone. I had a Palm, loved the Palm, but my first Apple phone, which was it was like the second generation iPhone. So I didn't have the first. I did have the second. Was life-changing. Like just the interface. It was so easy to use. It was very simplistic, but it just worked except for copy and paste. I'll give that. That was one of my big pet peeves of losing that. Was a little bit difficult, but it was an absolutely amazing experience. And after you're kind of stuck in the ecosystem, it's hard to go back, right? I was one of those people that liked to do what I wanted to do on my phone. So if you ever listen to those ones, those were my pet peeves. If I can't do, why can't I do this? Why are you controlling? Why are you curating my experience? But what worked really well. It was very stable and easy to use. And I just loved it. And that was it. I could never go back. After I'd try out an Android phone, I would be like, this is wonderful. But then when it had all those little buggy little things that did not work as well on it, I was like, no, I'm back. You got me still. So that was it. That was the beginning and the end of all of it.
So you have tried Android devices, but they just weren't for you, right?
They weren't for me. And I think that, I think also it was that it was at a time when it was like, it was a huge difference. It was like just such a big monumental change that once I was hooked, I was stuck in the ecosphere, and it was easier for me. And so then I just stayed. Like, I think that maybe if I had started Android first, maybe I would have, maybe, I don't know. But also all of the writing was around Apple. So then it also fed that. So, going to use an Android phone and then I'd have to test it out, all of the stuff that I was doing on an Apple device wouldn't have worked either. So It kind of kept me.
Yeah, if we creators say on YouTube and in the tech space, definitely Apple products just work better for our creative flow because of that ecosystem and because of the way they seamlessly work together. There's no other ecosystem out there that even comes close to providing that cohesive workflow that we as creators love so much.
Yeah. I have to deal with Siri and other little tiny things that are not happy places for me, but still, it ends up being more of a win than a loss. So I deal with it. We have a love-hate relationship.
Ooh, let's not get started on Siri because that is just such a pain. It drives me crazy sometimes, Georgia.
Yeah.
Siri was the first major AI out there, out of the block. First one.
I know.
Back in 2012. So that's 8 years ago. Siri was first. Before Google Assistant, before Alexa, there was Siri.
Yeah.
But Alexa and Google Assistant just blew right by her, and I don't think Siri's catching up anytime soon.
She is not.
Mm-mm.
No, I think that you've probably had those moments where you ask her something and she just keeps on, or she's recently been replying to stuff. I don't even have the, blah, blah, blah Siri on my phone. And yet she's replying to me. She's now replied twice in sessions. I don't have her on. I don't even understand why she's answering. And suddenly she's a part of it. She copied a whole session. She transcribed it for me. I'm like, I don't understand what is happening. I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, these are things that just should not happen, right? Like we had it once in the middle of the night. She suddenly starts talking to us. That is a scary, terrifying thing. Terrifying. Really, really frightening. You don't want to hear someone's voice in the bedroom, especially not a female voice in the bedroom that you're like, who's in the closet? Who's hiding in the closet? What don't I know about?
Oh man, no, Georgia, no. Oh wow.
What happened?
Oh damn. Oh man.
Get people in trouble.
Oh, just a little bit.
Because we have her in the bathroom, right? Oh. So like we just hear this echoey female voice, right? Luckily, my husband looked as confused as I was. But I was like,
oh, the possibilities how that all could end so badly.
It can end very poorly. So yeah, she just tries to get me. I think she's a little bit. I think that they put something in to just, bug Georgia, like just be a little bit difficult. She doesn't answer me. Like I think that she's just, she's ignoring me. I can't even. I laughed so hard when we were watching the keynote and they were talking about Siri's better. And I'm like, no, she's not.
George was like, I don't believe you.
And even their examples were really sad. I was like, if that is it, no. You got to buy me back. That is not enough.
Georgia said, let me turn this off.
Yes. She wouldn't turn off. I'm like, please turn it off. And she's like, no, not going to. Don't understand what you're saying. Thinking. I'll get onto that later.
That is crazy. So out of all the Apple devices that you use, Georgia, what is your favorite Apple device?
Well, I would say that it's my iPhone. Like I love my iPhone. It is my favorite device. The AirPods Pro is something that I'm using actually quite a lot. Quite a lot now. Now the Apple Buds hurt my ears. Like even the new ones, like the old circular ones, they cause me a good amount of ear strain. I have tiny ears. And so the ones that I use now, like these ones, they still bother me. So these are the upgraded kind of, curated ones, which would be the same thing as the AirPods. But the AirPods Pro are quite comfortable. And so when I go to sleep, I stay up later than my husband does. And I'm usually surfing the web or watching videos. So I want to be able to have sound because like the captioning doesn't work well on YouTube.
Don't even get me started on that.
It's not a good experience. So I usually have it in and I've actually like fallen asleep with them already in and then I hear because my pillow gets caught on them, but they're very comfortable. So I would say I love also the AirPods Pro. And then I don't use an iPad. I have a sea of I don't use. I have them, right? Because we've had to review them and we look into them. And so I have a whole bunch of them, but I don't use any. So the other one is then my Mac, which would be the new Mac Air is the one that I use now. But the camera on it's terrible. But the rest of the experience is beautiful. The new keys are beautiful, but the camera is scary bad. I was like, oh my God, this looks like when I have non-tech people commenting during sessions, like we're here for therapy. We're not here for tech, right? And they're like, what is up with your camera? And I'm like, wow, this is bad. And this is brand spanking new and it's bad. And they're like, well, I'm on my iPad or I'm on my iPhone. How do I look? And I'm like, no, you look fabulous. You look absolutely fabulous. And I'm like this 16-bit, like computer graphic kind of out where it looks like I'm from,
pixelated. Yep.
Oh yeah, it's horrifically.
It's crazy. It's crazy
yeah.
that we have to go through this because you said like you getting that on your MacBook Air. I have the new 16-inch MacBook Pro and the camera is still potato on this thing too. And potato. It's like, why won't Apple upgrade the cameras on their laptops? I don't get it.
You could put it like a millimeter thicker. I will not complain. I am all good. I'm all good. You could give me a few ports while you're at it, but I'm fine. I will be totally fine with that. It's okay. I don't have to dongle and put a joystick in while I'm playing, shell shockers with my kids, dying. I would be fine with that. But, you get some things, you don't get it all. That's the way Apple is.
Yeah. They definitely pick and choose what they want to work on and things like that. So
what is your favorite Apple product?
Right
you
now.
Didn't expect me. You didn't expect me to ask you.
I didn't, but I have an answer though.
Okay.
Right now, I'll have to say my 2020 iPad Pro.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. My husband loves the iPad Pro.
It's amazing.
And do you have it with the keyboard and
oh, absolutely.
you got it all, right?
The magic keyboard. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he loves it. And he's like, oh, now I have a better computing device than you do. And he keeps on talking about it. He absolutely loves it. Like I would probably change my thought on iPads if that's what I had instead and be able to use it. And I might just be like, that's now my device because it is that good. It is that good.
It is that good, but you yourself don't use an iPad. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you are of the camp that an iPad cannot replace a laptop or a MacBook.
I would say that it does not yet. This one is pretty bloody close. Can I say bloody? Am I allowed to say bloody?
Oh, yeah.
Parents are English. It's pretty bloody close. Like, there's just like a few things that I think that would probably be problems for me, but I don't know. I see my husband using it, and when I do get to use it, I enjoy the experience. I like it. It's really nice. And to be able to interact with the screen and to be able to interact through the keyboard, yeah, no, it's nice. It's light. It's beautiful. It's not like those old keyboards that are heavy and bulky and you're like carrying like 3 times the weight.
Right.
It's pretty beautiful. And the pencil sticks like onto the top of it instead of like the old pencils stuck on the end and it made me want to like crack them. I'd be like, I just want to grab it and just crack that baby off.
The worst
so horrible
engineering design ever. Or one of them.
That, right? Like, I'm sorry. Not a great
Clearly someone was drunk that day. They were drunk that day when they approved that one.
Doesn't look good. Doesn't look good.
Not at all. But yeah. No. But I agree with you. The iPad, as good of a device as it is, it cannot replace my MacBook Pro. I need my MacBook Pro to run the pro level applications that you just can't get on iPad. Although with Apple transitioning over to their own silicone, it seems like the gap between iPad and MacBook as far as applications is going to go bye-bye because they're all going to run kind of conglomerately on each other, and it's going to be interesting.
I'm excited for it. I'm ready. I think that we're all ready for it. Let's do this. Let's merge them all. I think Renee spoke about it like years ago about just having, one OS to rule them all. So getting closer. We'll see, right?
Definitely getting closer. Speaking of Apple Silicon, what were your thoughts on this past week's WWDC?
I was really excited, but I'm excited of like the things that we should have had years ago. So I'm like, I like that, like finally, like Renee, like when someone calls, like you see them on the top of the screen. Like it isn't that like Apple, like the phone calling system now hijacks your entire phone. Right. And now you have that uncomfortable thing of, do I decline it or do I just fade it out or what do I do? It's horrible. I'm like, oh, this is very awkward, right? And you're in the middle of something and it just crashes the entire system. You go back to whatever you were doing and you're like, oh, it's gone. I don't know. So that I'm really excited about. I think that that's going to be absolutely but again, it should have been like it's been a little while running, right? And the widgets, I'm going to go widget wild.
You want to talk about things that should have been happening that finally happened, Georgia. Let's talk about picture-in-picture for iOS 14. I have been mad for the longest time, Georgia, about the omission of picture-in-picture on iPhone. But finally on Monday, it became a reality. And my inner child was just so happy.
But you still can't put it just anywhere. It still goes to the left, right? Like it's still Apple's got a little bit of control in you.
Oh, of course.
Right?
Of course.
Like just a little like, oh, no, can't be that. No, we're just going to make it all a little bit like Apple in some ways is like that mom that comes back and after you've made your bed, remakes your bed. Right? Be like, no, Absolutely. This would be better. Right?
We both know how much of control freaks Apple are. They have to control everything, even a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. We're going to give you a lot of control, but then we're going to make it better.
Of course, absolutely. I mean, it would not be Apple if they didn't have some semblance of control somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And was there anything that you were disappointed about or sad about?
You know what, Georgia? To be honest with you, when Craig Federighi walked on stage and said picture-in-picture, my brain just went. I didn't care about anything else. Nothing else mattered that day. I was in heaven. But I would say that there were a lot of leaks and rumors pertaining to hardware at WWDC, but we got none of that. So that's always a little disappointing. But again, I was in picture-in-picture heaven, so I didn't care.
That's true. I was really sad. I was hoping for the Apple tags and I had just done Twit where they like people were like, well, we've already heard the rumors that they're probably going to be like, there's going to be no hardware, nothing new. And I was really devastated. And so then I was like, everyone on Twitter was like, I'm so sorry, Georgia. And then someone thought that there was something wrong with me. I'm like, no, it's not a big deal. I'm okay. I'm just a little sad about, like, it felt like with everything that's going on that I'm like, now I'm like, singing the world's smallest violin about like, a tech product. But I was sad too. I was hoping for Apple Techs. That was my one, if I could get one product, please.
Well, the thing about Apple Tags is that right now we're at home, so there's really no market for them right now until we get back out. So it'd be kind of hard to release a product like that, knowing that there's literally no use case for it right now.
or a lot of use case for it because no one wants to leave out. So if your dog suddenly disappears, like you want to find that dog fast, right?
There you go. There you go.
The dog does not have a face mask. You want to catch the dog as quickly as possible. But yeah, probably a supply issue, and we'll kind of see. But I thought they did a great job with it.
Yeah. I liked how they paced it. Normally, back in the day when the event used to be live, they used to have a lot of fluff. They used to talk about App Store numbers and everything that we just didn't care to hear about. But this past Monday, there was
the regular people don't care about that, right? Like if you're really into the tech numbers, that might have been your thing. But for most of us, I'm like, get to the goodies. I want this, like, come on, let's make the Christmas presents show up faster, please.
Yes.
I don't need to hear about how much you paid for those Christmas presents. Just give me more presents.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. But again, that's what I loved about the keynote this past Monday. No fluff, hardly no fluff. They just went bam, bam, bam. The transitioning was amazing. The pacing was great. And they really rocked it. I mean, there were some things that I didn't expect, like picture-in-picture, and other things that I didn't expect that we got. And I was just like, wow. I mean, I thought most of us thought that iOS 14 in up a whole would just be a stability update. But Apple put the hammer down with that. I'm like, okay, all right. I see y'all.
We got some stuff that we could actually use and want.
Yes.
Like, I'm actually really excited. I was like, Renee, when are we getting it? And he's like, probably. Like, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to wait that long. I want it yet. Like, I was like, should I get the beta? I'm like, no, I need my phone for like, I actually have to make sure that my phone works.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, I really want that now. I want to do all of these cool things that we're gonna get to do. But I'm gonna wait. I really did think about.
Surely Georgia Dow have backup Apple devices.
I do, but it becomes such a pain, and I really can't risk and that was why one is I'm not great with like trying out stuff anyways, but with my job, so I'm a therapist, I'm a psychotherapist, I deal with people that are dealing with anxiety and depression. So if my phone doesn't work, that could be someone's lifeline to me, and I can't mess around with that, right?
Right.
So I could switch phones and try to test one out, but I want it for actually for using it. I don't want it just to see what it works. I don't want to just taste a little touch of the cake. I want the whole cake. Right. So me using it on a separate phone, then I'll be even more angry when, when a phone call hijacks my entire screen and I kind of have to wait it out and decide oh, I can't answer now. I'm going to have to send a message. I found that was kind of intrusive. It's not a polite thing. It's like, I'm going to shut down your entire house unless you answer me at the door.
Right.
That's rude, right? No one's going to accept that from someone unless you're working for a boss and they're like, we shut it all down unless you listen to us, right? That's not okay. So that's the way I felt about it. So I'd probably be even more angry about getting a taste of the better phone life and then having to go back to, oh, now my phone's shut down again. And then I'll send angry messages to Renee, which is usually what I do. I'm like, he has to curate. He's like, Apple by proxy. I get to complain to Renee. He's like, save it for the show. I'm like,
he can handle it.
Yeah, he deals.
Shout out to the 29 of you all that are watching the podcast live today. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and Georgia. I appreciate you all rocking out each and every episode. If you want to support the podcast, super chats are open. You could become a channel member. You can buy me a coffee. That link is in the description. None of this stuff is required, but anything that you're willing to do is greatly appreciated. I just appreciate you guys rocking out each and every week with your boy as I do these live streams and this podcast.
And isn't it nice when someone actually says that I care enough about your show that I'm going to take some of my hard-earned money to be able to let you know that you are support. It's the nicest thing ever. I don't think that people know that it's a huge monumental thing when you're like, oh, someone else cared enough to say that, you know what, I want to support what you do so you can do more of it. So it is a really wonderful thing.
Yeah, I am definitely appreciative of their contributions every time. I mean, they are amazing. And without them, I wouldn't be here. I mean, this is why I do what I do. This is why we do what we do, because
Exactly.
we get to connect with like-minded individuals who are passionate about technology, and it's a joy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a real blessing.
No doubt. Shout out to those of y'all listening into the podcast this week on audio only. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and Georgia Dow. Appreciate you guys rocking out each and every week on VypDrive. If you want to support the podcast, there will be links in the show notes for you to do that. Not required, but anything that you're willing to do is greatly appreciated. Also, if you happen to be watching it, or actually, excuse me. Also, if you happen to be listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving a rating or review as to help more people discover VypDrive. And we are still trying to fight this war to get back into the top 200 of tech podcasts on Apple Podcasts. So please leave a rating or review. That will help out greatly. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of VypDrive. Georgia. We know, Georgia, that the iPhone 12 is coming later this year. So what would you like to see come with the iPhone 12 that we haven't had on iPhone as of yet?
Oh, are we talking hardware or are we talking software?
Both.
What are we getting? Oh, because like I always want stuff that I'm never going to get. Like my thing is I'll get it, but I'll get it like years from now, right? Like I want maps to like be really good. I want internals like into stores so that like, all the stores can give their internals. I can find my way around because I get lost in a circle. I want Siri to work. I'm not going to get that, right? My husband wants pencil support. That would be really cool. I think that could happen. I'm like, come on. You could get like, pencil support. I want macro. I want to be able to look at a bug and look at it like really, really, really small and be able to see it. I think that would be just really cool. Much, much more effective than it has now. And I think that it should be like, I would love it to be a little bit more affordable for people. Here, I'd like a charging plug to come with it. Just gonna throw that out there.
Oh, let's talk about that, Georgia. Let's talk about that. There are rumors out there today, you all, that the iPhone 12 could potentially come without a charger in the box. Now, I just did a video on my main channel just debunking this whole nonsense, but this came from reputable Apple insider Mean Chico, and it just blows my mind that people are running with this and they are believing this. Georgia, me personally, I don't think there's any way in hell Apple ships an iPhone without a charger. What do you have to add to this craziness?
Oh, I would be rip roaring upset if they don't. Like the rumor is that it will come with the cord,
right?
But it's not going to have the actual plug that goes into the wall. You would have to use ones, and the rumors are like that they might do it because we don't want to have as much e-waste and other things. I am sorry, you get one. These things are expensive. I don't know how much they cost, but I forget how much it is. It's a lot of money. So like you get one with each phone. And though like some of us upgrade often, and so we have a few of them, but I still in my house, and I am probably like, I'm not like Renee Ritchie level of product and have stuff, fair enough. But I'm like definitely like a couple of tiers right underneath that. So I have a lot of phones. We have a lot of tech in our house. And I still have like trouble finding a way to plug in my phone somewhere. And then you get the shortest little tiny cord. Like you can barely, like I'm like standing next to the wall trying to like use my phone because I can't unplug it, and like I move a little bit and I trip one of my children and they go flying and my phone goes flying out. Like, I'm sorry. Like if they came with like a whatever 12-foot cord and then they but give us a plug. They're not that expensive for you to make. If they don't have them, I think people are going to lose their mind. And if they were really wanting it to be for e-waste, like I would be fine if it's free, that you pick it up at store, or you check a box, or you do something so that if you have too many, I don't know anyone. I don't even think Renee would say I have too many. Maybe Renee would say I have too many of these, right? Maybe. I don't even know if he would, because like you could always give them. You can give them to a friend. Like, I'm sorry, like those are like gold. Someone gives a chart. I'm like, thank you. God bless you. Thank you. It's wonderful, because you want to have your phone charging. Now, if they came with a G-pad where you could just like wirelessly charge them, okay, that's fine. If they're not coming with the plug itself, but I get a little tiny mini G-pad to use, well then mea culpa. I am sorry. You are all good, Apple. We are fine then. But we can both agree that that's probably not happening.
Not happening, no.
And I think that people will lose their minds. I think I feel the same way though about the buds, that they might not come with earbuds at all either. Wired
that I
earbuds.
believe.
I'm like, no, I want that. Give me that also. I'm sorry. What are you doing? You're forcing people to upgrade. Apple doesn't need to do
Yes,
that. It's not much money for you. And now you're pressuring people to get wireless earbuds because you're probably not, like, if you're going to buy, you're probably going to buy a pair. That's ridiculous to me. I'm like, that just looks cheap.
that's
You
been
see,
ridiculous since 2016.
I know. It's one of those things that once things come together and you're used to that, the suddenly take it away, you end up with this expectational debt. You're like, wait, I'm still spending the same amount of money and now I'm getting less product for it. And Apple already, like let's say trillions of dollars is a lot of money. It's more money than I could even understand. And now you're kind of cheaping people out on like you're nickel and diming people, literally. Like for them, it is almost invisible.
Literally.
So why would you do that? Why would you do that to anyone, right? Again, if they don't want to if they're going to go the way, which I think would be a horrible lie to say like, oh, it's because of e-waste. Because if they really cared about e-waste, they would make your phones so you could upgrade them yourself and you would be able to fix them. And they glue those babies down so that no one's going to be able to do that. So that's not the way that they feel about it, right? They want you to
Right.
buy more products.
Oh,
so that's fine. Fine, totally cool. But then don't cheap out on the stuff that really doesn't cost. Like they give them away for free when people go to camps and stuff. You get the wired buds for free usually. So if it's good enough for you to give away, then it's probably not that huge of a cost. And I don't think it's packaging, and I don't think that it's e-waste. I think that it would just be that it would save them some dollars, and that will make their shareholders happy. Prove me wrong.
I completely agree with you. It's all about nickel and diamond. There's no reason why it couldn't come in a box. Although I completely disagree with the idea of them not shipping a charger in a box, but I could understand them not shipping earpods in a box because the iPhones have a speakerphone and you can listen to sounds and music through the speakerphone. So
but what if it's something private, right? Like, isn't there some conversations that you would want to have, right?
yes,
And you probably don't want other people to listen in on. And let's say it if you're on a bus or on the metro, and you're listening, like I'm sorry, those people like my sister, I love my sister, but she is one of those people that no matter what she's talking into her speakerphone, I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear your conversation. Now I'm forced to be part of your conversation, right? When someone's on the bus or the metro or standing next to me and they're having a conversation, I really feel like now I'm a part of it. I should be like, no, you know what? You're wrong about that. Like I feel now this is now, if you're going to do that, I should have a full right to be a part of this conversation. You've made me a part of this conversation.
Get them.
So
get them.
I think that they should come with something so that you can they care so much about privacy, and like noise pollution is bad, right? I'm one of those people that if I really like a song, I do play it too loud in my car, but usually I try not to do that if my windows are down. Like I'm not one of those people that have the bass that the entire block shakes when they go down the street. I'm not that cool anyways.
Oh, whatever.
My coolness factor is low. So I think that's the same thing for the phone. It's just polite. I think that Apple cares about privacy. They should be respectful to that. All peoples that have children probably need to bring some to school anyways. I don't know. They could have you check it off. They would still save money. Some people, very few, would say, no, I don't want it. Yeah. But most of them would be like, I could sell it on eBay or give it. Like I'd make a few bucks. So most people, especially with what they need now, that would be great. And they break. The wires fry. They die out. They get mucked up after a while, so they're not indestructible. So you need some. So I don't know. Both of them would upset me. And I think that you wouldn't be sad if you still had it, right? Like it would still be a good thing if they gave it. You wouldn't be like, oh, I hate Apple. They've put down the right? So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, my whole logic is that at least if they don't ship earpods in the box, I still have a way to listen to my music and sounds. It might not be the most ideal situation, but at least I have it. Right. But there's no way in hell you could ship a phone without a charger. I mean, what about if it's their first iPhone ever or their first smartphone ever? Then they have no way to charge the damn phone. Like that's just unacceptable on all types of levels. And the worst part is that they can't even just go to a store right now, right? Like they can't even. We'll see what happens in those at that point. But you might not even. You have to actually wait before you can charge your phone. Right. That seems like. Not to mention the phones usually don't come to you on a full charge, so you're already playing at a disadvantage anyway.
Exactly. There's enough to set it up, but that's about it. So what are you going to do? You're going to be beg, borrow, and steal to hope that you can charge up your phone. That seems like it would be a press nightmare. Like if you're thinking about it, Apple, like change course. That would be a press nightmare. And you can just see all of those advertisements out there being like, Apple cares so little about you. They don't even care if you can charge your own phone. Buy it and you're left out on the corner, right? That's just not okay.
Would get flame broiled. They would get broiled, literally.
Yeah, I would be there. Be on with the pitchfork.
For Nathan, they touch the stickers, there will be blood.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Shout out to GFAR for the $4.99, sir. I thank you for the support, man. Thank you very much. Says he likes what he's seen so far with iOS 14, but really want to be able to put apps anywhere on my home screen. Yeah, well, yeah, like I said, Apple always has to have some type of control. They won't give you full reign, but they'll give you just enough to make you think you have control, but you really don't.
Right. They tell you what you want.
Definitely. All right, so I want to transition over to something that's kind of more your realm. You are, as you said, a psychotherapist, and you do deal with technology a lot. So I want to get your thoughts on the way that technology kind of affects our psychology and things like that. We know that in the past couple of years, like both Apple and Google have both come out with well-being apps on their phone, screen time apps that track how much you use the phone, and they have settings where if you want to limit your use of the phone, you can do that. So what are your thoughts on these companies implementing these features to kind of help better help with mental health?
Okay, so I'll give my real, very honest thoughts about it.
Please.
We are so very addicted to our phones, right? And I don't know if you've ever, have you used to track your screen time on your phone?
No.
Have you done that?
No.
It is. I did it once live on a show, and I think that it was the Fitcast, and so I'm talking to Kevin, and we're talking about phone and screen use, and I look on it, and I go and I look on how many hours, and I hadn't done this before, right? Probably my own knowledge that I shouldn't go on there. And I looked, and when you look at something and you're like live, and we're doing the show live, and I look at the number, and I'm like, oh, that has to be for the week. That has to be for the week. And then I look and I see daily, and it's written right there. You try to do that cognitive dissonance, lie to yourself. And then I actually thought, and I'm a very honest person, but I should just lie. I was like, I should just lie. I'm just going to lie. And you know what? Funnily, I think I blanked it out. I don't even know if I told the truth or not. I'll tell the truth now so you can see. I think it was 7 hours a day on my phone. 7 hours. 7 hours of my day. And that's not 8 hours is sleeping.
Right.
So we have out of the 16 hours that are left, almost half are spent on my phone. And that was a really stark thought of how addicted, and I know the costs of technology that come with it. I limit my kids' amount of time on the phone. And then that's when I went, okay, I have to do something about it. That is not okay. And so I think that sometimes it's effective. You get that kind of stark, in your face live thought of holy Lord, how addicted am I to my phone? And I will ask everyone that's watching the show or ever listen to it, how close is your phone to you now? Right? Is it close? And that means I know some people will be like, well, I'm watching on my phone, so it has to be close. Fair.
Right, yep.
But there's a whole bunch of people that are watching on a computer or on an iPad. Now I still want to know, how close is your phone to you now? And there'll be some people that'll be pretty good. And they say during the day, I take my phone, it doesn't buzz or beep or deal with it. And I turn it over and it goes somewhere. Hats off to you. That is amazing. But for most people, it is within 6 feet. And I would say for most people, it's within 3.
Yep.
Right. And I will say on top of that, out of those people, most are within arm's reach, because anything further than arm's reach is too far.
Yep.
If I have to move, it's too far. The Wall-E universe is coming to us. And so I think that though they put these mental health features on the phone, it is almost like a drug dealer saying, well, I'm going to check how much drugs you are using. Right? I'm helping you. I'm going to tell you I'm going to make sure I track how much you're using my drugs, but I'm going to make the drugs really bloody good. And the drugs are going to be better every single year, but I'll let you know for your good. I'll let you know how much you are. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. My track use, I've found a new game, and my track use is back up again. And then I went, okay, I have to, I just have not even opened it. I'm like, that's getting back up there again. I'm not cured. I'm not cured yet. And so I think that, and this is the first generation of kids that grow up with this. How do you fight that? It is stronger than we are. It is immediate entertainment, instant gratification, avoidance at your fingertips, literally. How do you fight that? If I let my kids use their phones at any point in time in tech, they would do probably almost nothing. And I'll say it for me. If I have my phone with me, a second of boredom, I'm on my phone.
Yep.
Immediately, right? And so how do you fight that? How do you fight that instant dopamine, which, like, when they do the rat studies, so they did these studies on rats and on chickens, right, on addiction. So the phones cause a lot of dopamine. Like, it's a little tiny shot of dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that makes us feel happy, motivated, good about ourselves. We love it. And they did these studies where the chickens could press one button and they would get it was rats. They could press one button and they would get food and water, or they could press another button, they'd get a little shot of dopamine. What do you think happened to these rats?
Probably press the dopamine button.
They pressed the dopamine button to death till they died of starvation, happily. Which, again, doesn't say, like, there's a reason why psychotherapists and psychologists get a bad rap because they did this to the rats. But we found out that we will do almost anything for this dopamine shot over our, basic well-being, right? So yeah, this tech is exceptionally addicting. I love it, but it's exceptionally addicting, and I think that we need to know that. So I think that the health and wellness stuff is good. I think it's great. I love it. There's certain things that I love, and I think that it makes our life better in lots of cases. But its level of addiction, none of the people that sell tech would want to. And if I worked on the company, I would make them as addictive as possible. So I totally get it. But it's pretty addicting.
I would tend to agree. Like you said, I have my phones at arm's length practically at all times. So I completely agree with the need to be on our phones constantly. I think that, I'm not a parent, but I have to imagine that's one of the big struggles today of being a parent. How much do you let your kids play with their electronics? Because when we were growing up, Georgia, we were outside playing. We were interacting with other kids, riding bikes, playing basketball, being active, things like that.
Yeah,
but
getting into trouble.
Getting into trouble. But today, they're on their iPads, their phones, their tablets.
There's no kids outside.
None.
Now there's really no kids outside, and they shouldn't be. But like now, there's no kids outside. We would actually be so. And it was not like, if I had great tech at home, I probably wouldn't be either. So I'm not throwing any shade anyway. But like, there's no one outside because we were so bored. I was just so bored, right? We had one TV. My dad was watching it, and he was watching something that I didn't care about. And so I would go outside because I was deathly bored, and we would just gather other children, right? There was one other child. We'd be like, another human, let's talk. And we would slowly, our little groups would become this bigger and bigger group as we gather other kids and then cause trouble around the neighborhood. But people don't even go outside anymore. And so it is really difficult for us. We were really lucky that we started very early, and we enacted a pay for play system with my kids. So if they got good grades, they did homework, they were polite, they ended up getting more time. And so they had a certain limit of time that they can have. They still have that. And then they play their games. They do what they want together. And if not, then they don't play. And so we keep it to during the school year, they don't play during school days. And on the weekends, which would be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they could play up to 3 hours. And if we play with them, we give them sometimes extra time. And if they do really well and they get on a roll, they get a full day that they can just melt their brains with video games. So it's like, I think that it's fair because it's the same way that the world works. You work really hard, you should get a nice bonus, and you could get to enjoy things, but work comes first. And because I know how addicting it is, and I think that it is a really difficult, I think that a lot of basic skills are being lost because we're interacting with screens instead of people. I really wanted to give my kids that kind of head up on personal interaction and dealing with boredom and having to be creative. And they will, when they're bored, they'll suddenly be cooking and cleaning and doing gardening with me. And they'll be like, oh, let me garden with you. I want to do that. Which 100%, if they could play a video game, on those days that they're playing video games, they don't ask to do any of those things. So right. It's just true. And I think that it's good for them. I don't want their brains to be wired for this instant, immediate gratification. I also think that social media, great, but I think that it also is very damaging to our own self-esteem, into who we are as people. I think that it can be very negative, very mean. I think that like that interaction, and I wonder how you feel about this, but like I feel it hurts when someone's like, oh God, it's Georgia, I hate her. Like you'd be like, oh, you're a therapist, you're like grown in age, you shouldn't care about this. It does. It hurts me. I was a bullied child. Like it does not feel good. And I think that when you're young, that's devastating. Like I have like, healthy, good self-esteem. I feel I love myself. I'm pretty good about all those stuff. I do the therapeutic stuff for myself that I do for others. But I'm not going to say that someone like outright is like after me. There's one person, I know who you are. They're like, just hate me. I'm like, I remember you. And I'm like, every time I'm like, really? But I'm a nice person. Why? How could you hate me? And I'm like, oh yeah, probably I'm too bubbly, a little bit too, like, I can get it. Like, I'm in the small doses. I'm okay.
Oh, Georgia. We could talk about this all day long. Being a creator in the creative space.
Yes.
I make tech videos. I make videos on YouTube. So I open myself up to constant criticism every time I upload a video. So to be in the position that we are, you're being on iMore and me making tech content, we have to have thick skin because they will come after us any chance they get. So I think I've kind of built up kind of a wall to it. I'm kind of used to it. I mean, like
does it hurt though? Or are you like, enough, like it doesn't, it washes off your back? Like how does it feel when someone really, and it's usually when it's right, like when there's a piece of what they say that you're like, oh yeah. How do you react to that?
It may bother me for like 30 seconds and then I move on with my life.
Okay, that's good. That's pretty good. I think it would bother me for longer than 30 seconds. Yeah, because it's out there and we're privileged to be able to do this. But it is also, there comes a price of like being out there and having people like when you're out there for so much, right? Like they don't see you as a real person. They see you almost as a caricature or, this icon. And usually if I reply to someone and I'm like, me, and I answer them, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even really think about it. I was just having a bad day and wanted to like, you were the dog that I chose to kick at that moment. And I think that that's true, right? Like we always love to go after big celebrities and talk about them with impunity. We don't think about the human that might be behind that might be dealing with depression or anxiety or had something really horrible happen to them. Or, you're making fun of how I can't spell or I don't say things well. And I can't spell and I have dyslexia. So I do that a lot. And they may not know that maybe I was teased about that all through my time growing up or like all of these different things. I think that we lose that humanity because of the anonymity that you get. You can just kind of go after anyone and there's no cost, right? You probably wouldn't do that to someone that you were walking by in the street,
no,
or at least if you were interacting and you had to interact, maybe if you were going by really fast, you might, but if you were thinking that you're stuck in the room with them, you probably, right? Like if you've ever like, I once, I'll give you one where I did it. I'll give you one where I owned it. Where so I'm driving and I stop at a stoplight and I've got that red light and then someone goes and I'm like, you're not supposed to go. And I get really angry and I'm like, you're not supposed to go. And then I get into the car. I realized that they had a green light before I had the green light. It was like one of these strange green light turn lights. Anyways, we have those in Montreal. And so then I go in and I'm in the elevator and I recognize the person. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. That was me. But like, it's like those moments that don't usually get away with that on the internet. You don't have to worry about this person ever really calling you out, recognizing you. And that anonymity gives people that like rage magnet where they just get to unleash hell on anyone. And it can be damaging. It can be good for good things and bad for bad things. And so social media, I think, should especially be careful with kids because they're developing who they are as people. And if they end up with someone that truly hates them and is going to come after them for whatever are their reasons, it can be devastating. It can be really devastating and it can't be put back.
Absolutely. I think it's critical that kids be limited to how much social media they can absorb and consume because like you said, people will come after them just for no reason. And like you said, kids are so impressionable that any little thing will just completely like change the way they see things. And you got to protect them, man, especially at a young age. You got to protect them.
Yeah. And there are very bad protections, right? There are very few protections to make sure that there isn't going to be hate speech on social media, or they're not going to be bullied or harassed or dealt with people, or even scams and cons that are out there. Right now, the internet is still the wild, wild west. And do you want your kids to just be out there in the wild, wild west? I think that a lot of parents like they don't. One is the kids are probably more tech than we are, right? I still, if I can't work something, I do ask my kids, and odds are they know, and they know more than I do, which is sad because I do tech videos. But yeah, I was like, they talked to me about what did one of my sons say to me, something about like gaming, and then I was like, I used to do a gaming podcast. I totally know what that means. He's like, that was my alt. Oh, I'll explain to you, Mom, what my alt meant. I was like, no, I do know that. And he's like, well, I had to help you with the TV yesterday. I'm like, okay, fair, you get it. But they know more, so they can get on these. Even if you say no, they can be on it, and you probably do not know, and they know how to go around it without it. So I think that there's also this disparity between what the new generation they were born in this, right, versus like us that have grown and learned with it. Huge difference. So even if you're trying your best, they might still be on it. And then what are they doing on it, and what is the damage, especially if they're dealing with depression or anxiety, and then you get that one last little drop that kind of overflows the cup. It can be bad.
Yeah, we definitely got to be careful and try to monitor what they do as best we can. So last night I had Ajustine on here. I was talking to her because she recently got into jiu-jitsu. And I know that you are a jiu-jitsu champion. So
I love it.
How did you get? I don't know. Actually, I know Renee practiced, or he used to practice jiu-jitsu himself. So how did you, Georgia, get into jiu-jitsu?
Okay, I'll give you my jiu-jitsu story. One is, I think that, like, especially women, I think that jiu-jitsu should be for everyone. I think that everyone should do at least 6 months of jiu-jitsu. It is awesome. It's an awesome sport where it's a like round fighting where you're like, this is where it's one of the few. Okay, so how did I get into it? So I've done martial arts all my life, or a very long time. Did Kempo karate, did Wing Chun Kung Fu, and so at one point, my husband, who we watched the Ultimate Fighting Championships, and we watched how the Gracies kind of just took over, and they were small, and they took it, and they could really beat almost anyone, especially at the beginning before they knew how to defend, with this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which they, really did kind of create and make do with. And I'm like, that sounds kind of interesting, right? Because in my life, I always want to be a superhero. And if I couldn't be a superhero, I wanted to be like a ninja. And I was like, that would be really awesome. And so one point, my husband wanted to test out his skills. This is a true story. And he put an ad in a newspaper to see other people that wanted to fight. And then met with them and really did fight. I'm not even kidding. It's like now I look back and I'm like, how did I even say okay? We were just dating at the time, but I'm like, how did I even say that that's like an okay thing to do? And they would fight in my backyard with just these random people. And my husband did very well. He's a very good fighter. And he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So he's quite prolific now. But at that point we hadn't done it yet. And there was someone that was exceptionally small. And he beat my husband 3 times in a row. And he was so tiny. And we thought about it for a while, and we're like, we're going to practice this and that. And I said, you know what? I want to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And at the time, no one wanted to join. My husband was like, I'm not so sure about it. And he was like, I don't know. And then I'm like, I'm going to go join. And then my husband was like, okay, I'll go with you. And Renee was like, okay, let's do this. And then we started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that is kind of what it was, just because we watched all these, they were really good, and we're like, we have good stand-up, but taken to the ground, we just get annihilated. And I'm like, I don't like that. That's not good for my thought of becoming a superhero, that you just get annihilated, right? Like, it's like, oh, I'm like Superman, but kryptonite destroys me. So why don't we work on, like, if like he spent all of his time to actually figure out how to have like a suit that protects him against kryptonite, like, do that. Don't just every time like figure out, make your lead suit so that this is not going to affect you. Get a full faceplate. Like, why have one thing that just annihilates you? And so that's what we did. We started it and really enjoyed it. It's a wonderful sport where it's a little brutal, but a lot of fun, really enjoyable, and very good for your spirit. And it's nice because this is one of those great, like, you can be small if you are more skilled than the other person by a little amount. Strength does make a difference. I'm not going to say that strength doesn't, but it is one of the few sports that size does not matter, right? My husband at one point had a really good friend that they went to work with, and he was a strong man. He truly was a strong man, and he could take an apple and rip it in half, and he could take a phone book and tear it in half. And he practiced to be a strong man. Like, he would buy like horses to eat. I know it's horrible. But because he had to use it, you had to bulk up. He was huge, right? And at one point he said to my husband, you know what? I don't really think, I know you do this jiu-jitsu thing, but I don't really think that you can beat me. And my husband goes to him, not only do I think I could beat you, and this is at work, right? And all the people are around. He's like, not only do I think I could beat you, he's like, but my wife could beat you. And then he calls me up and he's like, Georgia, set up the mats. We have mats at home to train on. And I'm like, what? Why? And he's like, yeah, Guillaume's going to be coming over to fight you. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Guillaume's going to come back to fight me. And so I'm like, okay. Because I don't know why I just said okay. And later on that Monday, now everyone knows about it. And the funniest part is that he never thought that I was going to lose. Like he's a huge man, right? And I'm like a tiny female. And I'm like, okay. And so we go in and I'm like, oh, it would be really bad if I did lose, right? And luckily I'm like, I had to strategize it. I'm like, because his arm was like the size of my torso. So I'm like, I got to go for I'm like, he still has a neck. I'm going to go for the neck with my entire body. And that's like kind of what my strategy was. And luckily, it worked out. I got him. And everyone after Monday, after we did the fights, and we did 3 fights and yeah, I won 3 fights because not because of me, but because jiu-jitsu is so good. And then he went back and everyone asked, and he was very, very sweet about it and was very honest. And then we trained his entire family in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So then he had both the strongman skills and the jiu-jitsu skills. So that would probably equalize everything pretty well.
I would imagine so. So I got to ask, who would win between you and Renee?
Renee and I, like Renee's learned some really skills. He's very good at it. So I think that Renee would probably win most fight. I think I'd get him every once in a while, but I think that Renee would I would love to say that I won't. I'm like, oh, he's probably listening, he's gonna hear. But I think that Renee would probably win a whole bunch of fights. I'd have to probably like fight really dirty in order to beat him. And I love my husband too. Like pretty much almost always. I've caught him a couple of times, but almost never now will I beat him. But that's the fun part about jiu-jitsu, is it's still fun and you still get better. And if someone is not trained, then you don't have to worry about it. If someone is trained with you, then their strength, their size, those things make a difference. But it's one of the few martial arts where I could say that this makes a difference. In other martial arts, my skill was a much smaller factor because of my size, because you need to use that strength, that power. You have to be so much better than the person to beat them. Whereas jiu-jitsu, if they don't know what to do, you don't know what to do. Like, you're just lost. There's certain skills that when you do it, you just know. And then, they would beat me. But if they don't know, it makes a huge difference. So it's one of those really cool things.
Renee.
New iPhone, and then I'd be choked. Yeah, that's true. I would do that. I've done that before. I've said, look over there at that person, and then I've like jumped on them. And once you get the choke and it's locked, then you're pretty much set. They're out. But before that is now I might need to use distraction. I think I broke your phone, and then I would do it, right? And be like, look, did I steal your Apple Watch band? And then I would do it. I need a head start is really what I'm saying.
Oh, that is too hilarious. Looking to iPhone.
You got to do what you got to do, right? Love and war. There's just like,
absolutely,
you got to do what you have to do. So,
absolutely. Woo! Georgia Dow, thank you. Amazing conversation. Appreciate you joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun. I was very excited to do this.
And I was excited to have you. So again, like I said, I appreciate the time. Before we get out of here, though, let the people know where they can find you.
Oh, well, you can check me out on Twitter. I'm sometimes there. It's at Georgia_Dow. And you can also send me an email. It's Georgia@westmounttherapy.com. And if you're dealing with anxiety and depression, would rather do a video series, you can check out anxiety-videos.com.
Awesome. Shout out to those of y'all that are watching the podcast live today. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of VypDrive. I appreciate you guys. If you super chatted, brought me a coffee, any of that stuff, thank you. Appreciate you guys rocking out with me each and every episode of VypDrive. Shout out to those of y'all that listen to the podcast this week on audio. I appreciate you listening to another episode of VypDrive. So thank you very much. Again, if you want to support the podcast, there will be links in the show notes. If you want to keep up with Georgia, her information will be in the show notes as well. Thank you guys again for listening to another episode of VypDrive. Also, if you happen to be listening on Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving a rating or review as to help more people discover VypDrive. And again, we're trying to get back into that top 200 of tech podcasts on Apple Podcasts. So anything that you could do to assist with that would be greatly appreciated. For those of y'all watching on YouTube, you know I'm not done today. I got one more episode of VypDrive I'm recording tonight with Gerald Undone. That episode will begin at 9 p.m. Eastern time, so make sure you come back for that. But other than that, we're done here. Again, Georgia, thank you so much. Got to do it again sometime because this was a lot of fun.
For sure.
For sure. But until the next time, people, this your boy Viper, the man about tech. You know where to find me. So come back for more.